Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Galactic Show. Today, I have the amazing Cambell Purvis, and hopefully I said that right, Purvis.
Yep,
But you have the channel on YouTube, Autodiacratic, and where you talk
fantastic. Yep.
Tartaria and Star Forts, and you've just come back from an amazing 3-month trip over in Europe, visiting some of these places in Star Forts. And I couldn't imagine anyone better to interview, having had firsthand experience of being in some of these incredible places. So yeah, I do recommend for people to jump on over to Autodiacratic, and we'll pop up
Uh,
your. I'll pop up your.
Autodidactic.
Am I pronouncing it wrong? How do you say?
Yeah, autodidactic.
Oh,
Um,
didactic. That's right.
Didactic, yes. Means to be self-educated.
I remember you saying the definition of it when I was at the seminar you guys did in Melbourne, and I think you were saying it was like 3 years ago now,
Yeah.
which was just incredible. I think it was like an all-day event, but I could have sat there and listened to you guys for probably just like about a long weekend. You just can't smoke this stuff enough. So
Thank
before
you.
we go too far into it, I just have a few little screens to share. And just to remind everyone that Julie has 50% off for the Solar Return workshop. So this is a really amazing workshop if you want to find out what your year ahead is looking like, based on your birthday and based on your location. And I also just want to remind you guys that we have bookings. So Sophie has her tarot readings, and I have holistic wellness sessions, which I incorporate kinesiology, and we've got the starseed readings and mystical oracle readings, which not only do I look into your aura and describe the energies and the colors around you guys, but you can also ask questions too, just like a olden days oracle. And we have 10% off for all of the bookings at the moment. So for all of us girls, it's Jupiter to save 10%. And if you guys are watching on Maison Jupiter, please hit that like, share, and subscribe button. But I want to pop over to your channel, and you have some amazing shows, and I love it when I catch them live, because you have just so many comments like interacting. Can you please give us a bit of a description on your channel and just how your life really led you to create this amazing container?
Yeah, I basically cover what's called Tartaria, I guess. So it's alternative recent history, cover the mud flood, star forts, and anything interesting to do with history that I can find pretty much. There's quite a few interviews as well that have been done. And how did I start it? It's been a long, convoluted sort of story the last 4 years, but it's almost 5 years old. So I started it in 2019. And I just started because I was watching a channel called New Earth, and she was talking about Tartaria and showing all these buildings and how everything's similar, and then showing mud flooded buildings that are half buried, right? And you see the windows at ground level and things like that, and then star forts, which that just I'd never seen a star fort before, and that just blew me away. So then I found a star fort out in the ocean off America, Port Jefferson, and just thought I'd make a video because I was just like, "Whoa, this is amazing!" I thought other people might be interested, and I posted that, and it just sort of took off from day one. To tell you the truth, I was working at the time, so I wasn't posting much. Then I forgot my password and couldn't get back into my channel for like 6 months, and then basically 2020 hit. You all know what 2020 was. I got retrenched, because of what was going on. And then because of that, I couldn't work, so I started putting time back into my channel, and it just started growing. And I guess the rest is history. I've just kept on going and started not knowing what I was doing. I sort of had to learn as I go, and yeah, here we are.
And we're very lucky to have you, because I just find that online you have just one of the most biggest banks or library, which is ironic with your library in the background, of information on this topic. And I've got there's a Tartaria book as well, and it's just so great to flick through those pics and to really immerse yourself, in that history, or to, sort of vision like what it was that was happening with the technology and things of the day. Because not only are we looking at, old buildings and old structures since before the reset, but, there's technologies that exist. Did you get a sense or a feeling like when you were in some of these star forts, was there a certain energy that was there? Because I know you have a particular interest in star forts as well.
Yeah, yeah. You can definitely feel they've all got like a very sort of calming kind of energy, if that's the right word. It just feels nice to be there, I think. And we also visited 2 pyramids, and that they felt more powerful, but definitely still just that sort of nice, serene, relaxing energy. So yeah, I basically believe that all the star forts were part of a worldwide energy grid, that they were all connected at one point, and basically that was the source of free energy that the old civilization had. And I think the pyramids were the same kind of thing, but they're from an age before. They're a lot older. So I think we've had cyclical resets. The Indian Vedas talk a lot about it. Like the Kali Yuga and the different ages. We get this sort of story of ages and the Great Year and all this kind of stuff. So I think that's what we're looking at with history. They're trying to tell us it's all one sort of linear line that's straight, but it looks like it's cycles. It builds up, gets destroyed, builds up, something happens. And we're left here trying to work out all the pieces. And it's interesting because once you start looking into it, they don't tell us any of this stuff. They don't tell us all the government buildings around the world are the same pretty much. They all look the same. They're all the same basic design. They don't tell us about star forts, or they're also called bastion forts, and they're everywhere. Like I've got over 2,000 that I've mapped on Google Earth, and so there's all this history, and you go to school and all they want to tell you about is World War I and II, right? It's crazy.
Yeah. And even, being an Aussie here, like our education system's different to like what we'd get taught in Peru. And, we get taught that we come from different places, and we're in like a much smaller kind of sheltered, I guess, history lesson. And I found like in school, we didn't really learn as much about Australian history. What did you find growing up? Were you growing up here in Australia too?
Yeah. I've been here my whole life. I mean, we got taught a bit about, the bushrangers and Ned Kelly and this sort of story of, the first people that got here and went out and built all the farms and all this kind of stuff. And, we didn't get taught a lot. And what I got taught, seemed plausible at the time. But the biggest story of history, because like you say, we only get taught snippets. I always was wondering what was going on in other parts of the world. We get told one story of a piece of time in history, but there's a whole world. Like there's stuff going on everywhere, and I could never work that out. And I always knew there was answers in history. I was just drawn to it from a very young age, and as I got more and more into it, it just fell apart more and more, and I just started realizing it's just all made up. I call it his story. Right?
Yeah.
It's just a story that's been made up.
And I think that's the best definition. There's so many questions. I literally have 2 pages of questions because it was just such a wonderful experience. If anyone ever gets to go to one of Cambell's live events, they're just amazing because you're there with other fans of alternative history and other people that are awake to, that perhaps we've maybe had our true history hidden. When you were in some of these pyramids, because I know you went to the Bosnia pyramid too, what was your feeling or sense with that?
Well, the tunnels, the Pyramid of the Sun in Bosnia, they've done lots of data, recorded lots of things of people with different ailments going in and getting cured. Like one of the most common one is asthma. People with breathing problems go in, and they sort of go in for a couple of hours every day for a week or so, and they get healed. Not maybe not totally, but they definitely have improvements in that time. And So when you go in there, you can definitely feel it. There's meditation chambers in there and you can go and meditate. But the first time I went in with a couple of other people, and we all sat down together and, started meditating. And then for me, I basically opened my eyes and, the people I came in with were gone. And I was like, oh, wonder how long I've been in here, and walked out. And the people I'd gone in with were sitting down having a coffee, and we sat down and had a chat. And then I went, I wonder what the time is. And we went in at just before 11 in the morning, and I checked the time and it was 6 o'clock at night.
Oh
I'd
my
been in
God.
there for 7 hours, and I thought it was like maybe half an hour, maybe an hour. I'd sort of, and they said that when they got up and left, they were yelling at me like, "We're going," and they said I just didn't react. So that was my first experience. So I don't know what happened or where I went, but there's definitely powerful energies going on in the
Yeah,
Bosnian
well,
pyramid.
that's incredible. I didn't realize that you had that. Do you think is it missing time? Do you think you maybe slipped into parallel dimension? What's your feel on it?
I don't know. I can't like, to me, literally, it just felt like I was just, maybe half an hour, a bit more, closing my eyes. So I think I've just gone into a deeper state basically and just had a deep meditation. I had a car accident 3 years ago, and I still, sort of recovering from that. So I'm sure that was part of it. Maybe I needed some healing done. But yeah, like as far as the time, I don't know. I think I was just sort of locked down and charged up or something. It was sort of like, you got to stay, and it just pumped
Wow.
me full of energy. So yeah, that was my first experience, and the first time I saw the pyramid, it had a rainbow that went down and landed on the top of the pyramid. That was the first time I saw the Bosnian pyramid too. So it was pretty cool. It's a very special place. Like when you go there, everyone's just very chill. Everyone's really friendly. Like you sit down and an hour later, you've got new best friends. It's a very special place. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that sounds incredible. And I remember seeing that photo, just thinking, it looked enchanting. It looked like you were it's like two realms. So did it feel a little bit like being between, two worlds, or, looking behind the veil?
Um, it felt like, yeah, like I was being welcomed, kind of thing. Like it was like, here you are, come along, like welcome. It was, yeah. And I mean, I don't know if it felt like two realms, but definitely once you get up on the pyramid of the sun, just at the bottom, it's just, yeah, it just feels different. Like you just feel like you're in this special place. And Dr. Sam Osmanovic, who's basically the archaeologist who discovered the pyramid, he's visited every pyramid on Earth that we know of. He's basically the top pyramid researcher, and he discovered it, and he's basically bought the land there, but because the government, didn't want to back it or anything. And he's built amazing stuff. He's built a big park there, and there's meditation circles, and there's all this really nature-based. It feels like the first time I got there, it kind of felt like I imagined the feeling would be in, the hippies, 67, 68, where it's just all this free, no, not everyone was on drugs or anything, but it was just this feeling, right, of
Yeah.
this, I don't know, this change, something happening, the right people coming together. So it is a really special place. So if you get the chance, guys, go and check out the Bosnian pyramid in Visoko.
Yeah. And for people who want to see the pics, you've got them on, I think, your Facebook
Yes,
page. Yeah.
I can show. I've got some here now. If you want me to show them.
Well, that'd be amazing. Do you think also with this, because sometimes when we're so fascinated, like if we look at our astrology, there can also be a drawing to places that we've been before, or we'll get fascinated with, or I get a little bit obsessed sometimes when looking into periods of history where there's been other lifetimes. Do you think perhaps you maybe even had Tartarian lifetimes or times, like with some of these amazing pyramids and star forts?
It's an interesting question. I actually had two people give me readings like within 3 days, and they both told me that I'd never been on Earth before. So there's that. But yeah, I mean, I think past lives and that obviously occur. I think that we're infinite, all this kind of stuff, and probably because I've just been drawn like my whole life, like since I can remember, I've just had this idea that the answers are in history, and it's not something that's been taught to me. And it probably the opposite. When they were teaching me things about history, I was like, that doesn't seem right. What do you know? So I think we're all born with innate passions, should we call it that, things that we're drawn towards. And it would make sense that, they're from previous experiences, right? Whatever those experiences are. So, yeah, I've never had visions or feelings like, I've been walking through, but I'm just fascinated with the whole story of history and why they're telling us lies. Oh, hang on. I'll turn the volume. This is literally when I was driving up to the pyramid. You can see the big rainbow.
Amazing.
And so that's the pyramid there in the background. That's the Bosnian pyramid.
It's just perfect, the rainbow pointing to the pyramid.
Yeah, and it was literally right on the top as we sort of first saw it. It was crazy. Oh, sorry, got a bit of rain in the window there. But yeah, it's a really special place, and it's called the Valley of the Pyramids. Oh, I'll put this one on for you. So this is all about
thank you.
Mysterious figurines discovered.
Wow.
2000, and they're all like these alien type looking beings.
That's incredible. And was this sort of the sign located near the pyramid, or was that in a different part?
This is it's in the park, yeah. So have I got any more? How can I go forward? No, it's not going to let me go. Oh, it's a video. Look at that. Hang on, let me check. There's a big park that Dr. Sam's built, and so there's a lot of signage around and telling you what's going on and where everything is. So yeah, I think I got. So I'm just seeing if I've got any footage of the park.
They definitely look like they're off-world or perhaps like inner Earth. They definitely don't look like us.
No, they do not look like us. Hang on, sorry, I'm playing with everything here.
That's okay.
I'll play this in the background. I'll just how do I stop share? Okay. So
I can see one of our viewers, Tim, is saying they look like the ant people.
The ant people are like from the Native American stories. Yeah. The ant people. Yeah.
It's in the Hopi, yeah, they've got the Anastasi. I've actually got a photo of my grandfather. So he was part Navajo. There's a photo of him and I when I was little, and there's an ant being in the background of the photo, which I'll have to dig through and find to show you, because they look kind of similar with almost like a longer kind of snout or nose, but the big eyes, like the mask that you're showing.
Yeah, I have seen. You see that figure in cave paintings as well a lot.
Yeah.
Hang on, this is just the park. I'll just press play and it can play. So yeah, this is the part. This is Tunnel 6. This one they found kind of by accident. They kind of knew something was there, and because they have volunteers that go and dig out the tunnels, because the tunnels under the pyramids, they're already there. They're made of geopolymer, which is a type of man-made cement, but they were filled in. So when they're still excavating, they've done, I think, 5 kilometers, but there's all these tunnels, and they've been packed, like someone's gone in and filled them up with all this sort of river sand. And so they're basically in the process of uncovering them still. And hopefully that the plan is that they're trying to work their way towards the center of the pyramid and to see if there's anything in there. But Tunnel 6 they found, and they dropped in there through the roof, and they were empty. The tunnels were clear, and they found a few interesting bits and pieces in there. So it's a whole complex. It's all linked up. I think I started saying before, it's called the Valley of the Pyramids. So there's 5 pyramids there.
Wow.
And a temple, one that they call the Temple of Mother Earth. And there's also this other thing, I've forgotten the name of it, but it's like a small kind of hill, but it's made like a battery. Sorry, I've got a barking puppy dog outside.
That's okay. We love it when pets join. My cat's sleeping today, luckily.
You got the cat? Oh, hopefully won't get scared. But yeah, there's this bit that looks like a battery. It's basically clay, geopolymer clay. So it's made like a battery. And so it looks like this is all part of some system that was doing something. And out the top, they've done a lot of scientific readings on the Bosnian pyramid. And it has got a beam coming out the top of it, coming out of the apex.
Wow.
I believe it's 28 hertz, 4 meters wide, and just shoots straight up in the air. It's got inside the tunnels, there's really high orgone readings, electromagnetic, negative ions, all this, which basically is what heals us, the negative ions and all that. That's what regenerates our body. So this is just the park we're looking at. Like, this is next to the tunnels, and he's just done all this work, Dr. Sam, and and there's signage everywhere, telling you about all the different bits and pieces. And it's really beautiful country too. Like, the nature's pretty amazing. You see there's a nice love heart garden there. So it's all this very nice, love, family-oriented kind of energy that he's building. So it's, I forgot what I started talking about there, but...
No, it looks incredible. Oh, and what you were saying, like, about the beam coming out of the pyramid, I remember driving, I went to Area 51, and I remember, like, on that specific road trip, had an amazing photo appear over Lake Yosemite of a triangle craft that was just made of light. But one of the things that I don't know if I've shared for a while, it was a beam coming out of the Reno Casino pyramid. So it's interesting how, sometimes there'll be like energy harvest coming out of some of these places, even in the modern day situation. Right. I think they still utilize that technology, maybe not for good. Even, I think it was Sanitza had photos of like a violet colored beam. It looked like it was maybe coming down from the sun, but there was almost like light language that appeared in someone's photo. This is years ago, maybe like around, I think, 2012 or something like that. And what are these little symbols they've got on some of these stones?
Hang on, where's the video? So that's, hang on, can I pause it? That's the beam coming out the top.
Wow.
That's an artist impression. It's not a photo or anything, but that's what they've tracked on their machines, their scientific machines, as what it looks like. So it's, as you can see, it looks like, DNA, right, or something like that. These 2 positive and negative beams sort of interacting with each other. And it's what they've worked out is it's the same frequency that we use today to send telecommunications. So that sort of makes me wonder, are they all connected? Like, are they just not working? Have they been turned off? And if we can get them turned on, like all the pyramids across the world, will they suddenly start interacting with each other and build this network, right?
Yeah.
These, where was it? These. So these are symbols that it's like a reproduction. They've made this. It's like a standing sort of, as you can see, they're standing stones. Yeah. And it's just representing, these are all symbols that have been found throughout Bosnia on ancient sites, and there's so much history around in basically all the Balkans, which is the former Yugoslavia. And they have these things that they call graves. They say they're a type of grave, but they're basically just big sandstone blocks with carvings all over them, and you find them all over the place. So all these symbols have just been taken. You can see there's quite a few of them from what they've found, and it just kind of explains what they all mean. So I think I've got a photo of that, I can send you if you want to go through it all.
I would love to. And, with a lot of symbols and things, you can sometimes decode by running your hand across, and the actual geometry of the language will speak to you. So sometimes, like with rocks and artifacts, you can absorb some of the cellular information. So that'd be really cool to be there to tune in. But photos are, just as good.
Yeah. I'll definitely, I can send you the photo of it. But he's done such a good job, like promoting all this kind of stuff. That's Novak Djokovic down in the bottom. He's actually got a house at the bottom of the pyramid.
Wow.
He's their big call. He's right into it. So obviously they promote him a lot because he's a very big name.
And that says a lot because, being a bit of a poster child for, being awake and standing up for rights and being a bit divergent. Yeah, that's awesome to see that he lives near there.
Yeah. Well, his story was he was, up in getting near the top 10, but he just couldn't get any higher. And then he found out that it was his diet. Someone told him about something to do with his diet, and that sort of led him down this path. And he's kind of, as far as I can tell, pretty awake, and he's putting his sort of fame behind promoting the Bosnian pyramid and giving a lot of credibility, which is good. You can see here that's interesting. That symbol there, I don't know if you could see it. We find this on the floors of cathedrals everywhere.
Wow.
And what it is, it's actually exactly the same as an electronic or a digital antenna that you find in computer chips. And it's also on the floors of all these, churches, whatever you want to call them. And that's another thing like to do with the free energy. I believe all the cathedrals, basilicas, churches, all the old world big ones are basically energy machines, healing machines, as far as we can tell, that are creating good, vibrations, right?
Yeah, definitely with like the organs. And when you look into even the stained glass windows, the beautiful geometries, and then like you match it up with cymatics and like sound frequencies, you can just see it's like living structures of buildings that are for healing. It's incredible.
Yeah. Well, it's like a rife machine, right? You need to be on the exact frequency to heal whatever you're trying to heal. So that's why in cathedrals it's fixed, because it's fixing an exact frequency. And we see it through the windows, through, the floors. We've got the organs. Obviously, we've got organs in our bodies. They used to have bells. All the bells got taken out. Choirs, they've pretty much been stopped. So it was a lot to do with music, which is frequency and vibration, light, through all the stained glass windows, all the different colors. So, and the whole notion of that's where you go to get close to God, like that's the feeling, right? When you go there, you get this feeling because you're connected. That's the feeling God or whatever I think that people talk about.
Yeah. And I think it might have been you saying as well about the type of bricks in the red brick buildings, definitely here in Melbourne, that I think there's more quartz or granite that perhaps, if you're pulling in that energy from the old antennas, that they've taken a lot of these off the buildings. But if we're pulling that in, maybe it's storing, I think you called them capacitors, maybe in another talk that I'd heard. But do you think it's taking it in from that antenna, maybe store it in the capacitor and some of these special bricks?
Yeah. If you Google bricks as batteries, you'll see that they've just recently people have been doing experiments and they're trying to use bricks as batteries because bricks will hold charge. So, and because every brick's laid with a mortar bed, that's basically a capacitor, right, or a battery. Like it builds it into something that can actually store that energy. It was like I was talking about near the pyramids, there's like a mound and it's clay, geopolymer clay. And that's what you do is you put different materials on top of each other. So we've got brick, mortar, brick, mortar, brick, mortar, right? So the structure looks like it's built to be a battery and definitely with all of what we call antiquitech, which is all the stuff on the top of these buildings or that used to be on the top of most buildings. It's drawing it. Free energy down, whatever you want to call it, ethereal energy, because the higher you go up in the atmosphere, the more the charge comes. That's why obviously they have big spires, right?
Yeah.
To draw it down. So I think that's what they were doing. And then people you know, they were either radiating it out, you know, free energy, you know, maybe like they were doing, well, Tesla was trying to do it, Wardenclyffe Tower. And yeah, I think that it was a different civilization. I think it was a civilization that was built for us rather than, you know, trying to wipe us out, as I think we do it today.
And that leads into a question that I have. So I think it was maybe 2020, I started to get visions of two suns. And it was interesting. It showed me an alignment in this vision of another sun coming in. And then there was like a barbell of energy between the two. And there was like other realms and things that opened up in connection with this vision. And I saw there was like three circles, or what was like three pearls. And then I actually had a vision of other things coming in, like where we had this gold frequency around us, or like gold dust that was kind of added in and raised the level of consciousness. But when all this eclipse stuff was happening earlier in the year, and we had that so-called, you know, solar eclipse, for me, I kept having a vision, and I kept hearing spirit say about like the black sun. And I couldn't help but think maybe it was connected to these other visions in 2020. And I know at the talk that you did in Melbourne, you talked about perhaps that we didn't maybe have the moon in place, or that maybe we had, you know, sun all the time. I remember you saying there was not kitchens or bathrooms in some of these old Tartarian buildings. And it was maybe at the end of the mud flood with the reset that we had the moon come in, and lunacy and lunatic asylums and things start. Can you maybe, I know it's a big question, but do you want to sort of say your impression around like what you feel is happening with the sun and the moon, or what kind of type of people that we may have been back then?
Yeah, well, I went and watched the solar eclipse. I was in the US, in Ohio. And it was pretty interesting because the moon was up in the sky to the left of the sun, and the eclipse came in from the right. So
Wow.
to me, it wasn't even the moon.
Yeah.
And when it came in, all you saw was the sun getting blacked out, like, you know, half a circle as it came in. You couldn't, and you could still see the outline of the sun behind. So you could see through whatever was going in front of the sun. So it wasn't like a solid moon object. What is the sun and the moon? That's a big question. When I was watching the eclipse, it looked like the sun was a projection and someone was putting something over the source of the projection, if you know what I mean. So it didn't look like it was happening up in the sky, actually. It looked like that was a reflection of something that was happening somewhere else. So I don't believe the sun is, 96 million miles away.
Yeah.
I don't believe it's a big nuclear bomb in the sky. I think it's probably closer, and it could very well be a projection that's come. You know, a lot of people talk about the inner Earth, and it could be projected, you know, from up near the North Pole somewhere. The moon. See, the moon, that you can search online. There's so many photos of people taking a photo of the moon, and you can see stars through it.
Yeah.
So it's not a solid object. There's so many questions with the moon. There's that famous video of the moon. What do they call it? Wave, where you can actually see like this wave go up over the moon. It looks like it's buffering or something. So I think that we were definitely in a different environment. I think there was like Archaics talks about vapor canopy, like there being a lot more moisture in the air. I think at least there was a lot more carbon dioxide around, which is, of course, that's what they're trying to get rid of at the moment. Of course, we're mainly carbon, just for anyone who doesn't know. But if you pump carbon dioxide into a greenhouse, all the plants go mad and grow giant, basically. Same with animals. And if you look into the past, it looks like people were bigger. Yeah. There's a lot of photos from the late 1800s, early 1900s of, you know, sort of 8, 9, 10-foot people. But the doorway, these buildings, again, with back to Tartarian and the old architecture, like especially the Capitol buildings and things, they're massive. Yeah. And some of the doors are just, you know, just the doors. They're like 20 foot and more. and someone's still got door handles on it, and you can't even reach the door handle. So why would they do that? Like, were people bigger? Is this what they're trying to hide? Like, is this why they've, convoluted history so much? Is that basically they want us to believe that we're a warring species and we're dangerous, and if you let us loose, we're just going to go out and kill everyone and all this kind of stuff. And, we've come from the mud, basically, and crawled our way out of the swamp to evolve into a human. All this basically a story that doesn't empower us. It's not saying, you're a creator, you're powerful, you can do whatever you want. That's not the story we get told. But if we knew our true history, we would realize that we were those people at one point, and we would be asking what changed, what happened. So I think that's why they're trying to hide it. I believe we've already been invaded. Like, there's another whatever it is, entity, consciousness, being, something else is here running the show that is not. I just say it's not us. Because I've met lots of humans, and I've never met a human that wants to start a war, that wants to go and rule people or oppress them or wants to do harm. I just haven't met these people. But yet we see it in our leaders, those who wish to rule us, and in everything they produce, all the TV shows, movies, music, all that kind of stuff. That's what they pump out. So I think that's what's behind it all is we're powerful, beyond what we can conceive at this point. And that's what they're trying to hide from us, because as soon as we work that out, their rule stops, right? We get free again, right? We get to choose again and get sovereign again. So that's what I think is the whole story with, his story.
Yeah. And I think that's what we're going through again with this age of Aquarius that we're in now, this golden age. And, it's interesting looking at the sun when you look at it through auric vision, because there's all these rainbow rays that come out and it turns almost like a blue color. And we look at the old, pictures of Ra, like the worship of the sun god with Akhenaten, and you see these keys coming down. And, we talk about downloads or keys or receiving, frequencies or information. So I wonder with this, this whole solar eclipse that we went through, because I've seen double layers of gold in some of my clients' auras, especially when they were in the vicinity of that path of totality. So there seems to be something that's activated within them. And I'm now starting to see this with people that are consciously, plugged in or tuning into the sun. There's some kind of energy upgrade that's happening. So whether we're in the midst of the start of returning to, this golden age or this spiritual empire again, one of the other things I think that was really interesting that you spoke about was with the Great Wall of China. And there being, I forget which side it's on, but I think that it was to keep maybe China out. And can you maybe talk a little on that? Because that changes, like, it's a mind flip from what we've been in school.
The Great Wall of China, basically all the gateways on it and all the turrets, defense turrets and everything like that are facing into China. So it's basically, if China has built it, they've put the defensive side on the wrong side of the wall, right? But there's a lot of questions, should I say, about the Great Wall of China. We can't seem to find it in history, sort of pre-1600s. It doesn't seem to exist. And we're told it was this big sort of wall that we've got this concept that it was a big wall that was built at one time. It's actually like 3 different sections of walls that don't actually touch each other, that are going through different parts. Like, there's 3 Great Walls of China. But the story, and some of them are like inside China, like some of these sections. So it's just the same as everything. What we've been told, just whatever topic you want to get on with history, if you do just surface research, the story starts to fall apart almost instantly. Like, there's so many questions with everything, but they teach us as this is fact. It's fact. It's fact. But yeah, there's lots and lots of questions. And the end of the Great Wall of China, it goes into an ocean, and it's only like a couple of 100 meters. So, which means again, as a defensive wall, people could just come in and sail around the end of it, and just like you can get around it. So it's a silly story, and yeah, it's a hard one. I'm not sure when it was built or how it was built. But yeah, it's interesting. Great Wall of Tartaria, maybe, like basically, yeah, because China in the old maps, China was originally called, first it was Cathay, then it was Chinese Tartary. So it was part of Tartaria, what we call, and that's why we call it Tartaria, is there's all these old maps showing this massive country, what we would call a country, which is basically all of Russia. It gets smaller, but it basically starts off all of Russia, India, China, and into Eastern Europe, and then it gets smaller and smaller and smaller. And so it looks like there was a big civil, and that's the other thing. Like who was taught about Tartaria in school?
Yeah.
Like literally, it was the biggest country in the world if you go back to the 1700s, and we never hear about it, never get taught about it.
Yeah. And I wonder if they teach about it over in Russia.
Sorry?
Oh, I wonder if they teach about it over in Russia.
Well, they do now, because what I found out a few years ago, because I was like, well, where's all this information where are all these maps suddenly coming from, And it was Putin. Putin knew about the history and started releasing all this information on it. So I'm pretty sure they teach it over there now.
Yeah. All right. It'd be incredible to go to Russia and, see some of the buildings. And it's just, to me, it always reminded me of, I don't know if you watched it growing up, Chitty Chitty Bang Bang.
Yeah.
But they had what seemed to be kind of Tartaria like clothes and some of the technology. And it just makes me think, is that part of like just hiding a little bit of information? I actually want to go back and watch that. I haven't watched it since I was a kid, but I just keep seeing the parallels with the, the toys and how realistic and things, everything seems.
Yeah, I haven't seen it either since I was a child, but it was pretty steampunky, wasn't it? With all the little inventions and flying cars and all this kind of stuff. And I think that's what Tartaria was. It wasn't mass produced, there was no production lines, and people would just build their own creations, right? I think, I don't think, you could go and buy a car like we do, but you'd have to probably get someone to build it or build it yourself. So, I mean, it would have been fun, right? The whole steampunk. It looks like a fun place to live.
Yeah, it would have been incredible. And, if ever we get the time or the chance to time travel, I think that'd be a fun era to go back to. I'm just going to have a look at my questions, because I think I've asked you mainly things that are not even on my list, just out of like personal interest and whatever comes up.
Yeah, man. Ask away.
So one of the things was, I guess, when we look at the pyramids and them being maybe like, giant capacitors, or not just like a storage system, but, if we're looking at it from a computer side of things, there's some kind of network or some kind of, I guess, communication as well, because you had perhaps one language back in the, the really old days. So if we've got one language, or we have, perhaps like a healing modality, it seems like we were a bit more united, which I guess means we can progress a lot further. And it's interesting because in many ways you can see the parallel of how we're sort of heading back to that way. There's a dark narrative with wanting to be, I guess, like the New World Order side of things. I do feel like the people are stronger than that, luckily. What's your feel when it comes to like the whole, like the lunatic side of things? Do you think maybe that we got cut off from that sort of spiritual energy, or perhaps like the moon also influences the water within the body? What's your feel? Because I remember you talking about it more in the seminar too.
Yeah. Lunatics, obviously lunar, and we've got all these lunatic asylums, which are crazy, right? If you just again Google lunatic asylum, 1800s or 1900s, they're the biggest buildings in the town. So I think they were being used to basically lock people up who weren't conforming to the new story. And what is the moon? Why does it affect people so much? I tend to think that the sun and the moon are both giving off frequencies, different frequencies. Obviously, we have evening, the moon, it's more feminine. The sun would be more masculine. And if you notice the sun, like you mentioned, you saw two suns. I've seen two suns as well, and a lot of footage and photos. But the sun used to be orange, and
Yeah.
then it was yellow, and now it seems to be white.
Yes, it's definitely changed.
So that would indicate that it's changing frequency. Like
Yeah.
the energy signature that it's putting out is changing. If you look at fire, which obviously it gives off heat, we're told it's fire. Colder fire is like orange, then hotter, yellow, then white, then blue. So I think that's maybe what happened with the moon and lunatics and all this thing is that it changed frequency, and it was freaking people out, and that may be due to a natural reset sort of event or something, probably more to do with cycles, because I think everything's cyclical. It's not linear, and so yeah, I think that's the main. What I would say is that the sun and the moon both change their frequencies, and so that's directly affected our frequency, right? Because we're absorbing it.
Yeah.
So I think that's where it's coming, and I think that it was also the lunatic asylums were a cover to get rid of anyone questioning the narrative, because there's a big story there, then that ties in with the orphans and the orphan trains, and
yeah,
which it looks like a repopulation. Like it's a big story.
and it's interesting. I saw a comment, someone popped up. I had it up just before. Here it is. Lisa was saying in the movie Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, it was against the law to have children. So that, in itself, maybe there's a little bit more hidden history in that.
Okay, I didn't remember that bit.
I forgot about that. Another question that I had for you, just watching you go on these adventures, it's, I've started to form a bucket list. I'm like, right, I'm just going to start adding like where you're going as like a really good stepping stone to becoming like more physically and spiritually immersed in some of these places. I want to visit Göbekli Tepe. I'm not saying it right.
Göbekli Tepe.
Yeah, and Mount Meru is another one. When we look into the Vedic system, it's supposed to be that center of our realm. And I've heard that if you step foot on it without shoes on, that you might actually literally just vanish. And it's meant to be that doorway into the higher realms or into the other realms. But I keep getting visions of what seems to be like gods or goddesses or higher frequency or higher dimensional beings. I keep getting visions of them looking down in our realm. And I keep seeing that people that are doing the work like you're doing and kind of bringing back this hidden history, there's almost like an applause or a keep going. It's like you're getting close. So I do see like a lot of them around places like this and, Mount Shasta. And when I've been to like Mount McLeod, which is right near Shasta, wherever there's kind of inner earth entrances, we see that the energy is different. What's next on your bucket list of places to go? Is there somewhere that's really just calling you?
I'd definitely like to go back to Europe again. I did 8 countries, I think, while I was there. I would like to probably France. That's got some really cool places, and well, Italy and Greece, I guess, to go and see that, the stuff that we all sort of hear about. But I'd love to get to South America and Central America and check out their pyramids and what they've got going on, just to compare it, right? Because now I've seen some sort of European pyramids, and yeah, I'd like to get to South America. I haven't been to South America, so another continent off the bucket list. But yeah, I think that, and the US as well. There's tons in the US.
Yeah.
When I was there, I saw a star fort, one, maybe a couple. Castle, what's it called? By Ed Leeds Scallon. Gosh, brain fart. But yeah, there's tons of really cool stuff in America. I'd like to get the Caribbean. I think that whole area.
Yeah.
Cuba, kind of, Florida, the Keys, there's star forts all through that area.
And UFO sightings. My grandfather was stationed at Guatemala, World War II. And it's interesting the amount of UFO sightings that were had around that time, the experimentation on some of the soldiers and things that were happening as well. It just,
super soldiers,
I find with some of these places, where there is the star forts, that there's also more of a higher incidence of UFO.
Yeah, well,
And
that's obviously Bermuda Triangle, right? And the Bimini Road goes
yeah,
through there. So there's sunken old civilizations there. So who knows what's down there? Could be big. I've seen photos of pyramids down there, but I don't know if they're real. But that's what they say, that there's pyramids down there as well. So it could be, and it could be active, right? There could be a network that's still kind of active down there that's affecting things. So I mean,
yeah.
there's just so many questions that, and it's not that we don't get answers to them. We're not even allowed to ask the questions. And that's kind of the biggest giveaway, right? That there's
Yeah.
something going on.
And anyone that does is fact checked or, fake news. And I just saw Stuart Cash ask about Australia. So we're very, very lucky down here in Melbourne. And I haven't told you this, Campbell, but this building was actually built by a relative of mine.
Oh,
So
oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. Exposition
yeah,
building.
yeah.
Wow.
So, as you were saying, like when we went to your seminar, this was supposedly built within a year. I have been on the tour where they talk about it too, and you see, there's a well, and my gut and my feeling was this goes 8 levels down, and so I asked the lady during the tour, I'm like, they say it's I think it was 2 or 3 story building. When you're in there, you're like, there's no way that this is, what they say it is. I'm like, how far does the well go down? And she's like, oh, it goes down 8 stories. So why would they make a well that goes down 8 stories? And it still can bring water up to the day. They've got like a glass cover on it, so you can actually see into the well. So this was built by David Mitchell, who is Dame Nellie Melba, our famous opera singer's
Wow.
father. So I'm
Wow.
related to her through.
Interesting.
Yeah, she was my great grandmother's cousin. But yeah, when
Oh,
you look at it, there's
wow.
all like Freemason symbols on the fountain. And I know you guys went on the tour where you looked at quite a few of the buildings. I couldn't make it for the second day, but you also have this pic as well, from the Tartarian Australia one, and you can see like all of the levels underneath, which was great artwork and the train. Do you maybe want to talk about some of your, because I know we don't have long left, but is there favorite Australian places that have really just sort of amazed you or made you wonder a little bit more about our forgotten history?
I mean, yeah, all the cities, all our major cities have all got old world buildings in them that don't make sense. We had world fairs in Brisbane, Sydney, Melbourne, Adelaide had one, and there was even one in Coolgardie in WA, which is like literally a 7-hour drive from Perth out in the middle of the desert. So that as well. But I guess with Australia, the main thing really is all the country towns.
Yeah.
These country towns that are just out, Australia is different to America. America is covered in mountains, so it's covered in water. So basically you can drive 10 minutes and you're going to hit another little town. In Australia, you can drive days in some places, but definitely hours. And you find these towns and they've all got big, grand, old world buildings in them. We've got some towns like Bendigo that are just like completely like just whole old world cities. And, the explanation we get given is, all these, immigrants or ex-convicts just sort of wandered out into the desert or the bush and just built cities. Like with what?
Yeah.
And our history is so short. They say, Captain Cook landed in Botany Bay in 1788. And we have buildings that are built out by the 1820s, like in 30 years, like these big like Melbourne, they say was founded 27, I think, 1827 by Mr. Batman, by the way. Batman discovered Melbourne. Melbourne is Gotham City, right?
Isn't it? It
Yeah,
feels
it's
like
so
it.
Gotham's,
Oh my
yeah,
gosh, so dark.
yeah, it's crazy. But the timeline, that's the thing, the timeline that they tell us they got here and there was nothing here. So they didn't know where the clay was to make the bricks. They didn't know where the lime was to make the cement and the mortar. They didn't know where the, bauxite was or the iron ore to make the iron. And they didn't have any infrastructure. They didn't have any processing plants. They didn't have any roads. They didn't have anything. And then they bring this small population of convicts out, and within 50 years, they've got cities built everywhere. It's just a ridiculous story. And you don't start off civilizations by building your grandest buildings first.
Yeah.
right? And you see all these old photos, and you see these massive, grand, big brick mortar constructions, and that'll have like a picket wood fence around it, or a fence made from branches of trees, and it's like that.
And the dirt, the mud
The
flood
mud
coming
flood,
through the
yeah,
windows, and yeah, it's just crazy. The more that you look,
it's
things don't add up.
no, it doesn't. And I've just been looking on Google Earth the past few days out, sort of on the Nullarbor in sort of eastern WA, and there's what looks like a star fort out there. And when you look around, there's all these very, very strange looking things. And of course, Australia, the middle of Australia is gone, right? It's just desert. So was there a big catastrophe that hit and just wiped out most of Australia? Or is there more in there? Because no one goes to the middle of Australia. We actually don't know what's there.
Yeah,
And if you drive from Darwin to Alice Springs down the Stewart Highway, there's
yeah,
signs all the way down it saying you're not allowed to leave the road.
yeah.
Like it's a restricted area. We've got a restricted area I think it's in South Australia, and it's bigger than the UK. So
Wow.
we don't really know this, but there's restricted areas all over Australia, and we're not allowed to go in there. And then we have dingo fences and rabbit fences that don't make
Yeah.
sense. And
Well,
it's yeah.
there's an interesting thing I heard one of the elders say. It's because I was lucky to travel through a lot of the outback as a kid. My parents still go 3 to 4 months of the year. They'll go off the beaten track for where they won't see anyone for 2 weeks. And I think later this year they're going up to Arnhem Land. But one of the things that I heard one of the elders say once was in the Simpson Desert, there's an entrance to Inner Earth, and there's all these albino like white animals, but there's tigers, there's elephants and all sorts of things. So it does make me wonder even more hearing you talk about that. But yeah, I wonder if it'd be like a bit of an Area 51 type situation where you get hit with psychotronic weapons and things if you get a little bit too close.
It could be, because I mean, gorges. I don't understand gorges in Australia. Like in the middle, it's just desert for days, and then you'll find this gorge and it's completely green. It's got water, and it looks like it's just this remnant of a tropical rainforest or something, right? So like, it's like the oases or oases in the Sahara, right? Like, where do they come from? Like, it doesn't make sense with the story we're given.
Mm.
But yeah, there's so much about us. There's so much about every country, but Australia is great because the short timeline, it just doesn't make sense.
It does. And with miraculous buildings, and there's so much more that we could go into, but I'm so grateful for you coming on and spending time with our community. So thank you
Yeah,
so much.
no, thanks
I
for
just,
having me.
oh, you're so welcome anytime. And if there's anything you ever want to share or, come back and talk to us about, we would love to have you back on. I just want
Yeah,
to bring
sure.
up as well for people that want to reach out and connect with you. You have a pretty amazing stack of photos on your Facebook too. So I popped up your YouTube channel. You'll see that on the screen if you guys want to pause and go over there. I've also dropped the link in the comments as well. So you guys will be able to connect with Cambell's channel there. But yeah, you can see here, just looking at some of the photos, it's really interesting how we've gone so backwards. Is there anything that you want to share with the audience just before we finish, Cambell?
No, I haven't got much on at the moment. We're going to be doing another Tartarian Australia event soon. We're going to go to the Gosford Glyphs, but we haven't sort of finalised dates or anything like that. So if people are interested in that, and like you said, the best part of that is meeting your tribe, right? Hanging out with people that are like-minded. So that's probably going to be an overnight thing. We started doing, like, our last event was camping, because we find that people get to our events and that they just don't get time to talk with each other. So we're trying to get more time that people can connect. So we do a show that comes out very randomly called Tartarian Australia that's put on my channel. I think there's another one. I'm editing one at the moment. And so, yeah, if you're interested in any live events, meeting up with people, just check that out, Tartarian Australia, and we'll be mentioning what's coming up.
Yeah, and it's definitely not a place to miss. It's an incredible spiritual energy that's at Gosford. Hopefully, it's still there with, the things they've destroyed, and that they can protect, the grandmother tree that we've talked about on this show quite a few times, having Stephen Evan Strong on.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we're going to try and get them along as well.
Yeah, they're amazing. Their wealth of information, and been lucky enough to hold some of the skulls and read on them, and even some of the rings, which was
Yeah,
interesting. There was 3 of us psychics that got the same information. So yeah,
nice.
yeah, and just those skulls take you into a whole nother world. You literally pop into another dimension. It's just yeah,
Interesting. Like the
yeah. So
crystal skulls, maybe. Yeah.
I think I need to venture up to Gosford when you guys go up. I'd love to go up there again and see what's happening up there now that things have changed a
Yeah,
little.
man.
Yeah, thank you
Awesome.
so
I'll
much,
have you
Cambell.
there. My
It's been
pleasure.
a chat. And thank you to our gorgeous community. I will see you guys next week. So have a beautiful week. Bye, everyone.
Thanks, guys. See ya.